Ourselves another 30 seconds here. Thanks, Roger, for letting me know the sound is good. This is great. This is actually my first webinar that I have done since 2015. It's almost to the date. January 12th, 2015, for the launch of Sticky Branding was my last live webinar. I've done lots for other people, but bear with me if we have any technical issues. But it is noon. Let's drive into this. Welcome, everybody. My name is Jeremy Miller, and I am delighted that you are here today. This is going to be an interesting topic, that's something that is really important for myself, my clients, and hopefully for you. And what we're going to talk about today is how do you make your brand stand out in an oversaturated market? Now, before we dive into this, let me just briefly introduce myself. I am Jeremy Miller. I am the founder of Sticky Branding. I am the author of both books, Brand New Name and Sticky Branding. And our work fundamentally follows around the ideas of brand strategy. Sticky Branding, my company, is a brand building agency. We work with organizations from around the world on how do you make your business grow into a sticky brand. And we focus primarily on the strategy end of things. How do you, business strategy, brand strategy, positioning, naming, those types of topics. And they all drive around this question of how do you get your customers to know your brand, like it, and trust it, and ultimately choose it first. And to create that kind of a first choice advantage is very much a marketing topic. How do you engage with people early and often so that they are aware of what you do, what makes you brilliant, so they call you? But the problem that we saw in 2019 was a dramatic and marked shift in the realm of digital marketing. In 2019, I not only saw this in my business, I saw it within our clients and in the market as a whole, that marketing shifted right underneath our feet. It was a seismic pivot in terms of the way we connect with our customers, the ability to reach people, and many other elements there. And we started to see this first and foremost in my business, and just the launch of Brand New Name, and I'll come up to that in a few minutes. But what caused, as we started to see this in our business, we took a step back and started to look at our customers. And we did a research study where we analyzed over 36 marketing campaigns, perennial marketing campaigns that have been run for several years that could demonstrate marketing ROI. And we looked at, these could be campaigns like blogs, social media, search engine optimization, podcasts, you name it. And what the summation of this came out was, it is taking exponentially more time and more effort to get the same result. And the way we summed it out, the average was, it was taking on average over a 5-year period, 10 times the effort to generate a declining ROI. And the measure of ROI in terms of marketing, especially digital marketing, was the ability to generate sales-ready leads. And we could just take this in a very simple term. When I began blogging in 2004, every article that I published back then generated a new customer. On average, our average size deal back then was around $15,000. So I could attribute 4 hours of work to $15,000. Today, you could do 100 articles and nothing would be seen or viewed. And so we're increasing that volume over and over and over again. So what's going on here? Well, Mark Schaefer, the social media strategist and author, nailed it probably about 5 years ago when he came up with his seminal blog post, Content Shock, and then wrote a book about it. And what he discovered going back several years was that the volume of digital content is starting to surpass the amount of human hours in the world today. And back when he wrote the post, he found that the world was doubling its digital content every 6 to 12 months. Today, we have passed that critical inflection point, and we are actually producing more content in a 24-hour cycle than there are human hours to consume it all. Think about that for a second. We are producing more content in 24 hours than there are human hours to consume that can consume it. So you could do this as a thought experiment. Get everybody in the world, everyone from North America, South America, Africa, Europe, and Asia, and ask them to consume what was created yesterday. Well, they couldn't do it anymore. We have passed that critical inflection point where we are producing so much content that people simply are tuning out. There's no such thing as FOMO anymore. It's because there is so much content, we are being selective. And you can see this in your own behaviors. Are you subscribing to new email newsletters, or are you unsubscribing? Are you liking more Facebook pages or following more people online? Or are you defending your inbox? I'm willing to bet you're defending your inbox. And if you're doing this, then I guarantee your customers are too. But as marketers, we are part of the problem. We are constantly creating content, and this is what we're being taught to do. So every time you have an idea, the idea is you need a white paper, a blog, a podcast, a video, a social media page, and we keep fractionalizing all the content and creating exponentially more. But this is where things start to get problematic. We can now see in the data that people are tuning out. Moz did a study last year where they profiled over 1 million articles, and they found 50% of articles being published have no likes, shares, comments, and probably no views. Let me repeat this because this is shocking. 50% of articles being published have no likes, shares, comments, and probably no views. That means half of the digital marketing being produced every single day has no eyeballs whatsoever. This is shocking. And not only is this being driven out into our social media side, Google is part of the problem. We're producing so much content now that Google is actually being selective in what it indexes and puts forward. For example, just look at your own marketing efforts. If you have 10 articles on the same topic on your website, which one does Google rank first? Probably the newest, the longest. What is it? The one with the most links? So it's not going to rank all of your content. So we are getting to this point of digital saturation. And consumers are changing their behaviors. You and I are changing our behaviors. The place we spend the most time is actually in our social media feeds. We are not actually clicking and linking and going to the articles as much. We are simply scrolling and going through the content we see in Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. And the content that performs the best tends to be pictures, videos, or short snippets of content like quote images. Why? Because you can keep scrolling through that. And we as marketers have learned to do this. And in 2019, the two best social media channels for digital marketers has been Instagram and LinkedIn. Is this where you're finding you're getting the best results? I know this is where I saw this within our business and especially within our customers. And the data backed this up. What we saw was that on Instagram, it was just a haven of video and engagement. 86% of Instagrammers are posting live stories on their feeds every single week. 50% of brands are following suit on this, and half of that content is videos. And this content does really well for creating engagement. The other thing that's great about Instagram is that 80% of people on Instagram follow brands. We actually do like brand content in there, especially if it's interesting or relevant. And so this has been a great place to connect with our customers. If you're in the B2B realm, LinkedIn has been absolutely incredible. And this is one of the things that I find so amazing. 50% of the B2B website is originating on LinkedIn. So if you look at Google Analytics, you will see LinkedIn as probably one of your #1 referral sources for content to your blog. But and of that traffic, you can bet a lot of them are decision makers. 45% of users on LinkedIn are actually in management or executive roles. So this has been such a brilliant place, but we keep ratcheting up the noise. And what does that mean? Well, we should expect that free ride of digital marketing content and reach to start ending in 2020. And this is really the thing that I want us to pay attention to. We're already seeing this on Instagram. In Instagram, they are throttling content. We no longer can see how many likes are on a post. The algorithms are changing so that posts are being filtered. And this following a very similar trajectory that happened on Facebook, where today between 2 and 7% of posts are being viewed or seen on Facebook. You should expect Instagram to be in the same place within the next 24 months. LinkedIn is also expected to throttle its content and change its algorithm in 2020. The volume of content is growing exponentially, and LinkedIn is going to be changing and throttling its algorithm. What that means is we are seeing the end of the free ride where organic digital content is going to have less and less return on marketing. So what do you do about this? Well, there's really been two streams of thought here. The first is post more. That's really what Gary Vaynerchuk has argued. He is saying if you are not posting 100 pieces of content for Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, podcasts every single day, you are leaving the greatest opportunity in the world on the table. But could you imagine doing this in your company? Could you imagine posting 100 pieces of content per day across all of your social channels? That's that's mind-numbing. And this to me is the race to the bottom that we are experiencing today. That if we each were to increase our content flow, not only 10 times, but 100 times, imagine what that's going to start doing to consumers. We're going to continue to just tune out. Or we automate it and we create crappier content that just causes us to continue to tune out. And that's really the issue that I think we have to wrestle with. You can produce more to try and stand out, but that is a race to the bottom, and that means your marketing ROI is going to continue to decline going into 2020. And so how do we know this is happening? Well, the red alarm or the alert that happened for me was actually the launch of Brand New Name. My second book, Brand New Name, launched in October of last year. And Sarah and I, my co-pilot, spent 9 months building our marketing campaign to launch and bring this book to market. So we started in February 2019 to launch in October 2019. And we had a great game plan for this. My first book, Sticky Branding, was a #1 Globe Mail bestseller, and it actually sold out. All the hard copies sold out in the first 4 hours of launch. So we knew what we were doing, and we had the data to support that. But the thing was, as we got into this campaign, it seemed to be feeling like we were throwing money into a black hole and nothing was working. And I remember at one point during the year that I actually posted an article talking about some of our marketing ROI. And I said that very statement, that it felt like promoting Brand New Name was throwing money into an abyss. And several of my mentors and colleagues called me up and said, Jeremy, you should not be saying that. That shows a sign of weakness, that you don't know what you're doing when it comes to marketing. You can't go out and say that you are not succeeding in your marketing campaigns. And I disagreed with them because I think if I'm not willing to share what's working and what's not working, then who is? We're always playing this strength card. And what we have to recognize is that digital marketing world is shifting all around us. Now, I can look back on this 5 and 6 months later and start to see what's going on. Ultimately, our tactics worked. Every campaign and every objective that we set out for, we got to. But it took exponentially more effort to get us to the outcomes that we wanted. And so, what is going on? Well, it's this issue of constant saturation. The more we are being bombarded, the more we tune out, the more we filter, the less the ROI is going. And so do we follow Gary Vaynerchuk's role, or do we shift gears? The issue is not going to change. We've got this persistent erosion that's going to keep going into 2020. So when you look at your digital marketing this year, this is what I want you to think about. Persistent erosion, meaning you're going to get less organic reach, less engagement, and less sales leads unless you change your tactics. Why? It's simple. Too many fishermen, not enough fish. These channels are all saturated. They're all very problematic. So my question is, what do you do about it? This is really the thrust of today's webinar. What do you do when the rules keep changing? And my prescription for you is really two things. Number one, go old school. Number two, build a brand. Go old school in your marketing and build a brand. Use the marketing tactics that actually worked in 2005 and reinvigorate and apply them. So let's apply this. Let's look at what this means. So in my first book, Sticky Branding, these were core principles of engagement, and I think they are more relevant than ever before. And the three principles that stand out the most are this: simple clarity, create a first call advantage, and be everywhere. Let's unpack these. Simple clarity. Simple clarity is the ability to describe your organization and what makes it unique simply, succinctly, and in the language of your customers. And the ideal of this is to be able to describe your brand in 10 words or less. I believe simple clarity is truly the foundation of all brand work. Can you describe your brand and what makes it unique in 10 words or less? And what does that look like? Well, simple clarity is like a label on a file folder in your mind. It's simply a label that allows us to reference who you are and what you do so that we can come back to you. And that label doesn't have a ton of information, doesn't have a value proposition or colorful terms. It simply tells the company or the customer who you are and what you do. And then all the contents are within that, so that it's a reference point. And that label, for it to be effective from a brand messaging perspective, is really three parts. Number one, short, make it 10 words or less. You don't have a lot of space on a label. Two, descriptive, tell someone exactly what's in the contents of your folder. And three, make it easy to share and hard to forget. And if you can get this for your brand, this is the foundation of everything. So let me give you an example. What is an ideal form of simple clarity? Well, to get to it, you really want to try and answer three key questions. You are, you do, you serve. What is your category? What are your services? And who is your market? So who are you? What do you do? And who do you serve? And if you can unpack that, that's going to give you your strength. So here's the example of this. One of my favorite examples of probably the best simple clarity right now is a firm out of the United States called Patriot Software. If you're in the US, you've probably seen their ads. They're prolific on TV. They're prolific on radio. And what they say in every single ad is that you are, you do, you serve message, which is Patriot Software is an accounting and payroll software company for people with 1 to 100 employees. So that clearly defines who they are. It's accounting and payroll software for companies with 1 to 100 employees. And it's brilliant because it doesn't give you a value proposition. It simply gives you that categorization. If you are looking for accounting and payroll software and you have between 1 to 100 employees, you're going to pay attention. You're going to go to the next step. If you're not in there, you're going to tune out and keep moving. But that simple categorization allows you to move forward. And once you have that with your brand, then you can actually do very effective marketing. And so then this leads us to the second principle today, which is create a first call advantage. A first call advantage means this: build relationships with your customers, prospects, and centers of influence early and often so they know your brand, they like it, and they trust it. And when your customers know you, like you, and trust you, they will choose you first. If you think of any remarkable brand, Apple, Nike, Starbucks, or maybe it's your favorite restaurant that you visit on a regular basis, they all have that one thing in common. Their customers choose them first. But it's bigger than that. They think of them first, they refer them first, and they come back again and again. And they do that because they know the brand, they like it, and they trust it. And if you can get someone to skip over all the marketing and call you first, that is a very powerful marketing position, because usually the company a customer calls first is the one who wins the sales deal. So how do you do that? Well, this is a core principle of sticky branding. I call it the 3% rule. And what the 3% rule argues is that at any given time, 3% of your customers are buying, the rest are not. And what this triangle represents is anyone who can give you money. These are current customers, past customers, and prospects. And what the model starts to show you, though, is that there's two modes of buying. There's that top 10%. Those are people who have a need and will make a purchase decision in the next 30, 60, or 90 days. And then there's everybody else. Now, we need to have both kinds of marketing. We need to put our brands in the path of search, whether through SEO, pay-per-click advertising, referral marketing, whatever it is. How do you connect with people that are buying right now? But the thing that I want you to think about today, though, is that your brand is built in the lower 90%. The most important marketing when it comes to brand building and relationship building is how you connect with people when they're in a non-buying state. It's a myth to think that your customers will actually form a lasting bond with your company when it's at the purchase moment. Just think about when they're buying a car, for example. If you're to buy a car, you don't form a lasting bond with that car at the purchase moment. Dealing with the car sales rep is probably the most awful experience out there. But your relationship, that brand is formed before you buy the car, all the awareness you gain on it, all your appreciation and affinity with it, or once you're a customer and own it. And the same is true for all brands and all products and services. It's the time before you're a customer and once you're a customer that you are truly building brands. And so all this time we're spending on digital marketing, all the content that we are producing is actually working against the logic of the 3% rule, because what matters most is relationships. And so in 2020, my challenge for you is to get more focused, fewer followers with higher engagement. And here is a simple model that I'm using for myself and I think is relevant for you. What we're trying to do in the 3% rule is develop 1,000 true fans that could generate 100 prospects or people that are interested in your products and services that could convert into 10 sales opportunities. And those are simple, attainable numbers. And Seth Godin calls this a minimum viable audience. What is the minimum number of people that you need to reach and engage in order to create a full sales funnel? Who are the people that you need to build relationships with? And this is a very scalable model. So if you're a small business, maybe this is all you need: 1,000 true fans to generate 100 customers and 10 opportunities over, say, the next 90 days. And if you could do 40 opportunities over the year and a good chunk of those close, you're going to have a very good, healthy business. If you're a larger company, we just scale it up. Multiply these numbers by the number of salespeople inside of your organization. So if you've got 5 salespeople, maybe all you need is 5,000 true fans to generate 500 prospects and, say, 50 opportunities a month or a quarter. What are your numbers? And as you do this, get really disciplined in asking, if we only engage the minimum number of people possible, who are they and who would create the most value? And a good question to ask as you're doing this is, who knows about a customer and their needs before you do? So obviously you want to be engaging future customers early and often, but also look at your referral partners and your centers of influence. Who knows about a need first? Because if you can engage them, that's far better than just bombarding social media channels with another LinkedIn post or another Instagram picture. And keep pushing that. And as you get focused here and as you build relationships, the next challenge is amplifying it. And this takes us to the third principle, which is be everywhere. Now, be everywhere is a contrarian kind of idea, but what it is how do you create the illusion or the experience that your brand is everywhere? And what we want to think of is not only being on social media, but what are all the potential channels within that 1,000 true fans that you can engage them with early and often? And one of the things I'd like you to be disciplined on is to ask, what are the channels that matter most? One of the symptoms over the last few years has been this social media bandwagons. I love this cartoon. You'll see it through it today. I've been sharing these cartoons from Tom Fishburne, and he's amazing, and he captures the truth. So tell us again how our brand, or sorry, tell us again how Snapchat will help our brand sell more life insurance. Well, it's not. And so not all social media channels are where your customer's at. Where do you need to spend your time? And this is where the old school principles start to come in. What are the key marketing levers that you want to spend your time and effort to engage with people? And of all the options right now, the ones that I am gravitating the most towards are really 4: direct selling, pay-per-click advertising, PR and media, and sponsorships. And the reason for this is I want to be able to buy and engage with people as early and often as possible so that I'm getting to the right people that matter most, being super selective. But the one that, and for this, there's really 2 key points here. With pay-per-click, what we want to recognize is the rise of organic content driving our sales funnel is coming to an end. So if you want your brand to be in the path of search, you're probably going to have to pay to play. And the other side of it is the most effective way to cut through the noise, though, is number 1, direct selling. We need to elevate the sales organization in each and one of our businesses, whether you're B2B or B2C. We cannot rely solely on marketing to be able to move the sales needle. There's that classic line from The Wolf of Wall Street: pick up the phone and start dialing. How are you going to get and connect with people? And what I have been really looking at in terms of my marketing going into 2020 is less about awareness and more of that 1,000 true fans that we can engage and connect with like human beings. That old school relationships are what's going to drive sales more than anything else. So let's take this down to a summary. So first and foremost, these three principles really boil down to this: simple clarity. Create brand messaging so that everybody understands who you are, what you do, and who you serve. That's the foundation of everything you do. Next, build preference. Get people to know your brand, like it, and trust it. And build those relationships early and often. And three, build awareness. If you don't blow your own horn, nobody will. But the crux of this is it's old school marketing. It's all about the customer. Focus on your customers, not the tech. Focus on creating relationships, not likes. How are you going to engage with people like people so they know you, like you, and trust you? And if all things fail, go back to that piece of plastic on your desk, that little computer that we call an iPhone or an Android device, and pick it up and call people. The more we can connect with human beings, the more likely it is that you are going to grow your brand. And so my hope for you today was just really to start a conversation with how do we create engagement going into 2020. What we have to recognize is that we are at a moment in time where everything is shifting all around us. Saturation is a real deal, and that we should be seeing persistent decline in terms of our marketing reach and our marketing effectiveness, which means we have to be that much more deliberate. So this is taking me to the end of this talk, so let me wrap up with a couple final thoughts. Number one, I'm here. I'm happy to chat. Feel free to contact me anytime. This is my contact information. You can call me at 416-479-4403 or email at jeremy@stickybranding.com. Our website, stickybranding.com, if you're just calling in audio-wise. And we're happy to go through these types of topics. This is something that we're all wrestling with and struggling with. And how is your marketing strategy performing in this realm? Finally, I just want to leave you with my favorite quote, and this is what I like to wrap up all my talks with. Dr. Seuss said it best: why fit in when you were born to stand out? Why fit in when you were born to stand out? This is what branding is all about. We are choosing to make deliberate strategies and different tactics to create an opportunity to stand out, to create engagement, to connect with people, to grow our businesses. That's why we do what we do. And we need to be recognizing that it's the true relationships that really drive everything in this day and age. That we've had this free ride where we could connect with a whole lot of people in a mass market way, relatively cheaply using digital marketing, and now things are shifting. So thank you very much for your participation. I'm going to hang out for a little bit if you have any questions or whatnot. If you want to chat with me directly, again, here's the contact info. You can call me at 416-479-4403 or email at jeremy@stickybranding.com. But thank you so much for your participation today.